My partner snatched his phone off the couch like it was a live grenade when I sat down. Not in a casual, oops, private way, more like I'd walked in on him stealing. When I laughed and said, "Okay, James Bond," he didn't laugh back. He just held the screen to his chest and told me I was being weird about boundaries. That word, boundaries, got weaponized so fast I barely recognized it. We'd been together little over 2 years, living in a one-bedroom that always smelled faintly like his espresso beans and my lavender detergent. I'm a project coordinator at a nonprofit, which means my whole job is making adults behave like adults. He works in IT support for a mid-sized company and is the sort of person who can explain a router setup while making scrambled eggs. I'm not anti-privacy. I don't go through people's phones. I don't need to know his passcode. I thought the fact that he always tilted his screen away was just him being him. Some people are protective of their stuff. I even defended him when my friend Tara raised an eyebrow once and said, "Girl, no one hides their phone like that unless they're hiding a person." The first time it got truly uncomfortable was at my coworker Mel's birthday dinner. We were squeezed into a loud little restaurant with sticky menus and string lights, and someone suggested a photo. James offered to take it, because he always does, and I handed him my phone. Without thinking, I reached for his to take one of him and me. His reaction was instant. He yanked it back so hard his water glass tipped, and the whole table went quiet for a second as it clinked and sloshed. Then he smiled too wide and said, sorry, work stuff. Confidential. Mel said, "Ooh, secret agent," and laughed to smooth it over. But I felt my face get hot, that specific humiliation where you can't tell if you're being wronged or you're the one doing something wrong. The rest of dinner, I kept my hands in my lap like a punished child. In the car afterward, I tried to keep my voice calm. "You embarrassed me." He stared forward and said, "I'm allowed to have privacy." "Sure," I said, "but you acted like I was trying to steal nuclear codes." He sighed, like I was exhausting. "My ex went through my phone. I'm not doing that again." That should have settled it. It almost did. I told myself I was lucky he had firm boundaries. I told myself I was mature. Then came the phone rules. A week later, he announced he was cutting down screen time and was going to leave his phone face down in the kitchen after 9 p.m. He said it like it was a health initiative, like we were a wholesome couple doing better habits. But it only applied to his phone. Mine could be on the coffee table. Mine could be charging in the bedroom. His was suddenly a sacred object that lived in a different room, face down, always on vibrate. If it buzzed, he'd get up immediately, check it in the hallway, and come back like nothing happened. He also started taking phone calls on the balcony. Not long calls, but frequent. The kind where you hear just enough. "No, she doesn't know, yeah, I'll handle it." Then the balcony door would slide shut and I'd be left staring at our reflection in the glass. When I asked who it was, he'd say, "Work." His job wasn't life or death. He reset passwords. The third escalation involved his mother, which sounds almost funny, except it wasn't. His mom, Diane, is polite in that tightly controlled way. She compliments your throw pillows like she's evaluating you. We were at her house for Sunday dinner when she mentioned, very casually, "James told me you've been having trust issues." I almost choked on my wine. He didn't look up from cutting his chicken. "We're working on communication," he said. Diane's eyes flicked to me. Well, snooping is a hard habit to break. My cousin's marriage ended over that. I sat there with my fork in my hand, fully aware of how I looked. The girlfriend who invades privacy, the paranoid one, the unstable one. James had managed to set a narrative without me being present for any of it. On the drive home, I said, "Why did you tell your mom I snoop?" He turned it around on me so smoothly I almost admired it. "Why are you making this a fight? If you weren't trying to look at my phone, it wouldn't come up." That night, I slept on the very edge of the bed, listening to him tap on his phone in the bathroom with the fan running. I couldn't confront him without sounding guilty. I couldn't prove anything without becoming exactly what he was calling me. It felt like being trapped in a box where every move confirmed his story. So I did the most boring, adult thing I could think of. I protected myself. At work we have training about documentation and consent and digital security. I opened my notes app and started logging specifics like I was managing a case file, which is deeply unsexy but grounding. Dates, times, what was said, who was present, I also told Tara, briefly, what was going on, not as gossip, but so I'd have someone else aware of the pattern. Then I waited, which made me feel both patient and pathetic. The reveal didn't come from me breaking into his phone. It came from him getting sloppy. We were at home on a Tuesday evening when he asked me to check an email he'd sent, from his account, because his laptop was acting weird. He slid his laptop toward me while he cooked, like it was nothing. I opened the browser and there it was, his email already signed in. A tab was open to a group chat, not a work group chat. The chat title was Lease Plan, and there were 5 participants, including Diane. I clicked before I could talk myself out of it, because at that point my reputation had already been torched in his mom's dining room. The messages were short, practical, and disgusting in their calmness. Diane. Make sure everything is in your name. You can't be stuck with her if it goes bad. James. I'm handling it. She's sensitive about privacy, so I'm framing it as boundaries. Someone named Kyle. Did she sign the renewal yet? James. Not yet. She wants both names. I'll get her to agree to mine only. Easier if she thinks she's the problem. There were more, scrolling back weeks. Planning how to get me to move out if he wanted. Planning how to keep the security deposit. Planning how to, quietly, make sure I couldn't claim anything if we split. And then the line that made the early weirdness click into place. James. If she ever asks, I'll say she tried to go through my phone. Everyone believes that story. I sat there with my hands on the keyboard, hearing him in the kitchen humming like a normal person. My heart didn't race so much as it went cold. I'd been bending myself into a shape that fit his narrative, and he was doing it on purpose. I took screenshots with my phone, fast and shaky, and sent them to myself and Tara. Then I closed everything and called out, "Laptop's fine." He walked over, kissed my head, and asked if I wanted pasta. I said yes, because I needed him to keep thinking I was still inside the box. The next day on my lunch break, I went to the leasing office alone. I brought our current lease, my pay stubs, and a calm voice I did not feel. I told them I wanted to remove myself at renewal and asked what my options were. The manager, a tired woman with a nameplate that said Angela, looked sympathetic in a way that told me this wasn't her first breakup by Lease. "We can do a roommate release," she said, "but both parties have to sign." I slid my phone across the counter and said, "I think he might refuse. I have documentation that he's trying to force me off without notice." I didn't show her everything, just enough to prove I wasn't inventing drama. Angela's expression hardened. "Okay," she said, "then we'll handle this formally. And if he wants it in his name only, he can re-qualify on his own." It was the first time in weeks I felt like the floor was steady. That evening, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I told him I'd seen the group chat and I'd already spoken to the leasing office. I watched his face cycle through confusion, then anger, then a performance of injury. "You went through my stuff," he said, like it was a trump card. I said, "You handed me your laptop. And you told your mom I was a snoop so you could control the lease." He tried the old line again, boundaries, privacy, my insecurity, but it landed differently when I wasn't trying to defend myself. I wasn't pleading to be trusted anymore. I was informing him of consequences. He called his mom in our bedroom with the door half shut, like I wouldn't hear. Diane's voice came through the crack, "Stay calm. Don't admit anything. If she gets loud, record her." It was almost impressive how committed they were to making me look unstable. He did end up signing the roommate release, because Angela made it clear the alternative involved legal paperwork and a paper trail he couldn't charm his way out of. I moved into Tara's guest room for a month, then found a small studio I could afford on my own. A few mutual friends went quiet on me for a while, which I expected. He'd been seeding the "she's controlling and snoops" story for weeks. But when the lease renewal came around and people realized I wasn't the one who got kicked out, I simply left. The tone shifted. Even Diane stopped liking my posts, which felt like a spiritual victory. I used to think a hidden phone was just a preference, like not sharing a toothbrush. Now I know it can be a tool, something you hide behind while you build a version of you that other people will believe. Privacy is normal. Turning it into a weapon is not, and I'm done mistaking one for the other.